We have roll call. Please start voting. Okay, Ms. Holly.
All councilors present, with Councilor Daniel and Councilor Griego previously requesting to be excused.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the agenda approval.
Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as presented, excusing Mr. Griego and Ms. Daniel from the meeting.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, please start voting. Ms. Holly?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, we have citizens' comments. This is where we allow the citizens to come up to the podium and have comments. We ask that you keep your comments below 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, I will politely interrupt you and ask you to end. So the first person I have is Ruthie Brown.
Thank you, City Council, everybody. I'm Ruthie Brown. You all know that. Anyway, couple things I'd like to suggest on your water-wise landscaping and talking about parks and stuff is Olympic Park. You all said how busy it is, and it is. It's used all the time. So wouldn't it be nice to have real bathrooms there for all the people that it's an entryway? You know, if someone stops and gets a burger or, you know, just pulls over, bathrooms would be great. And with all the other improvements you're thinking about in the parks, no one has ever mentioned ADA accessibility, and the easiest way for you to find out if it's accessible is get in a wheelchair and wheel around and see, because it's not easy. It's not easy to push someone. It's not easy to wheel yourself. And so beyond that, ADA playground equipment, I'll harp on that forever, but you won't know what it's like to push a child or an adult in a wheelchair unless you're in one. Meanwhile, I'm still gathering signatures to get the recycling center open longer hours. I want to let you know that I am not the only one, and I'll be the first one to say that I took 99% of these signatures. Some of them are double, but some of them are not, and people are still coming in every day that likewise want to recycle when the city won't open up. I'm not the only one who feels this way. I don't understand what it would cost. I know in my business, I was just recently, I think, kind of forced to buy security cameras because I could not take one more burglary. So it's a huge expense for me monthly. If we're so worried about someone dropping off a couch or a fridge or I don't know what we're worried about, then invest in cameras and put them at the gate. You'll get the pickup, you'll get the truck, you'll get the car, and you'll get a license plate number. It could be just that simple. Or give the young man, whoever he is, 10 extra hours a week and let him be able to support his family and have benefits, which is only fair in a town this size, that we don't play the Walmart trick and hire for 30 hours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person we have is Merlin Lauser.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Loser, and I'm here representing the Tree Board, and I'd like to encourage all of you to come help us plant trees this Friday at noon and at 4 o'clock. What we're trying to do is enhance our gateway coming from the airport into town, so we'll be planting trees on State Avenue right near the entrance to the cemetery. And we're planting smaller trees under power lines, so this is also for an educational opportunity. As so many of us who've lived in Alamosa a long time, we see all those trees, those big Y-shaped trees, because people plant a great big huge, as they matured, elm trees under the power line. So this is to help encourage people to plant trees that offer nice shade for families, that are easier to take care of. Because they're smaller, they use less water. And I have some handouts out here on the podium, and on the back side it talks about tree care. Also, the tree board has put together a pamphlet, a brochure on maintenance of trees, and they are in a little handout place to the left of the finance office right out here. You can get some of these. We are able to do part of this is from a grant from Colorado Tree Coalition and Excel Foundation, and along with monies from the city, so we work with the Alamosa Parks and Recreation. And if you don't have a shovel, we'll have plenty of shovels. The guys on the crews do the heavy lifting, but we get to fill it in and learn the proper way. I would say many of the trees in town don't last well because they're not planted correctly. And it's not that hard. You just need to dig that hole a little wider and more correctly. And we'd love to see you, and dang it, it may be windy, but it doesn't take us longer than an hour. So we'd love to see you if you can come out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, those are the only 2 cards I have for tonight. Okay, up next we have ceremonial items. Tonight we're going to have 4 different proclamations, and what's been working for us is we've been letting our team of counselors work together and giving these presentations and presenting these proclamations. So the first one up is the Municipal Clerks Week Proclamation, and Councilor Brawls is going to read that one off and present it to our Municipal Clerk.
All right, proclamation. Whereas the office of the Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of our government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at all levels, and whereas the municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. Whereas the municipal clerk continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meeting of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishment of the office of the municipal clerk. Now therefore, Mayor Ty Coleman of the City of Almaosa does recognize the week of May 6th through May 12th, 2018 as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extends appreciation to our municipal clerks Holly Martinez, Susana Gallegos, and Lachelle Montano, and to all municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent.
Okay, thank you. I just want to give our municipal clerk staff an opportunity to come over to the podium if you could and say a few words if there's anything you would like to say, or have them ask you some questions, just like we do everyone else.
I don't think they wanted to come up here, but I'm glad they are.
Okay.
We didn't prepare speeches.
Oh,
Yeah, I
it's
didn't
okay.
prepare a speech either, but I couldn't run my office as efficiently as I could without these two, so I am very appreciative that they are in my office with me. So,
Thank
and I'm
you.
glad they are here tonight to get this proclamation with me. So.
Well, we're glad to have you all here too, Councilor Brawls. Anyone have any comments for them?
No, being
Okay.
new, I appreciate all the communication and the work you do. I'm impressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Vigil?
Thank you, thank you, Holly, to you and your staff. You guys do a great job, especially with the changes with the judge lately and that. You've kept with it, and I just appreciate all your work you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Carson and then Counselor Hensley.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you as well. You guys are a huge part of this job that we do, and without your good communication and help, we would not be able to do it. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I just want to echo what everyone else has said, that you are very receptive. You always get a hold of us when we call, return our calls, the emails, everything you do. So thank you to the three of you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I too would like to thank you for dealing with the change that we've had to go through in your department over this past year. You've had to deal with a lot, and sometimes change is difficult for people when you're having transition, but you all are doing a real good job in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's go down and take pictures. Let's squeeze in, everybody. Oh, this one. Wow. Well, the next one we have is for Nurses Week, and I'll be reading that one. You know, I may struggle with reading this one now that I've looked at that big one back there. So I may have to go back and forth. Okay, this proclamation is a proclamation of National Nurses Week, May 6th through 12th, 2018, the City of Almaosa, Colorado. Whereas skilled nurses, nursing and rehabilitation centers in Alamosa, Colorado, and around the country provide health care to citizens with a wide variety of health care needs, and whereas the depth and breadth of nursing profession meets the different and emerging health care needs of our citizens in a wide range of settings, and whereas nurses care for our citizens in all aspects of health, including health promotion, illness prevention, treatment, maintenance, restoration, rehabilitation, and palliation, and whereas nurses support well-being with all client groups, individuals, families, groups, populations, and entire communities, and whereas the American Nurses Association is celebrating National Nurses Day across the country from May 6th through Saturday, May 12th, 2018, with the theme Nurses Inspire, Innovate, and Influence. And whereas nurses serving our residents in a skilled nursing rehabilitation of community settings deserve recognition for sharing their knowledge and making daily contributions. Now, therefore, I, Ty Coleman, as Mayor of Alamosa, Colorado, encourage every citizen of our community to honor and serve the residents and patients of skilled nursing and rehab centers by visiting and volunteering at local nursing homes to bring good cheer to residents and appreciation to nurses who care for our citizens on behalf of the City of Alamosa. I declare May 6th through May 12th, 2018 as National Nurses Week. Can I have the group of nurses come up here, and Erica and your team, and say a few things if you don't mind?
Mayor Coleman and councilors, Erica Lusbrock, representing Evergreen Nursing Home and San Luis Care Center, owned and operated by Life Care Centers of America out of Cleveland, Tennessee. They all panicked when you made Holly come up. They all turned to me and said, "We're not talking, right?" So I am the designated talker. I'm sure you're shocked, those of you that know me. I just want to take a few moments and say thank you for having us tonight. It's really special. Nurses Week is really important. Nurses are the leaders in our buildings. A little bit of background about Nurses Week. It was created by the American Nurses Association. It is always May 6th through the 12th, and it's Florence Nightingale's birthday on May 6th. So that's how it was designated, which I find to be really poetic. It's pretty. We're really proud of the healthcare in our community. We think that between our clinics, our hospital, and our rehab and long-term care centers, we are able to offer really extreme good healthcare. We are really proud that we are the leaders of long-term care ratings by Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Evergreen Nursing Home leads us at a 5-star, Evergreen, and San Luis Care Center leads us at a 4-star. Those are the 2 highest ratings in the entire valley. And so we're really proud of that. We want Alamosa to be proud of that as well. We have tonight with us, we have Evergreen Nursing Home is led by Kara Finger. She's our administrator at Evergreen. Our director of nursing is Ramona Dutton. And then we also have Ruth Kintz. She's our clinical care coordinator. Maggie Roybal. MDS, which is Managed Data Set Minimum. It's MDS, yeah, minimum data set. And then Jennifer, where's Jen? Jennifer Carr. She is our health information manager. So we're really extremely proud at Evergreen. At the care center side, we actually have some nurses that are dealing with some stuff in our building, so they were unable to join us tonight. But we do have Erica Hull. She's on our 2nd day here in Alamosa, so she just joined us. And I was like, hey, guess what you're doing tonight? 2nd day in. So we're extremely proud of both of our buildings. Nurses Week is something that's important to us. We look forward to it every year. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to celebrate with us. The sign is very big, Mr. Mayor Coleman, because our residents are visually challenged.
That's fine. I'm visually challenged too.
Can you read it?
Yep.
Then I made my goal.
Yep, you did good. You did good. Okay,
So-
Council, any comments? Anyone? Okay, go ahead, Councilor Burrows.
No, I was going to say, I appreciate the nurses. There's times I've had to use them. And, we appreciate your dedication and skill, and really how you treat the patients. I know they really appreciate it. And I've heard good comments about the nurse care, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Hensley.
So the nurses are awesome, obviously in all different realms, whether it's something for me or a friend or a family member, so that's great. I also have to say, in different things, to volunteer and to help out and going into both of the homes is what a great staff that is there. Everybody is super pleasant, really friendly, and you can tell because the residents seem to really be enjoying themselves as well. So thank you very much for all you do.
So Mayor Coleman, you've also had the invitation to join us on Monday, May 14th for National Nursing Home Week, which is now called Skilled Nursing Week. But I do need to let you know that both buildings have something special planned for the mayor and councilors. So anybody that can attend, please do, because my little people are super excited and ready to, they want some autographs, basically.
Well, I'll make sure that I be there.
But no
I'm there
pressure.
for sure. I will be there, for sure. And I remember when I first came to Alamosa and I couldn't find anything to do. So I was looking for something to volunteer to do, and the very first place I volunteered was Evergreen Nursing Home. And I really enjoyed how the nurses treated the people there, and I think they do a wonderful job at both nursing facilities. So thank you all for all the hard work that you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You're welcome. Okay, we're going to come down there and take a picture with the big giant one here.
If there's two, we'll just have both on each end.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay. That's okay.
Almost as well. I know. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Keep going. Go it. Fill in. Hi. Nice to see you. Yeah.
You stayed far away from her. You stayed far away. She did. She was the furthest thing.
Actually, we'll have Kara and Erica be in the middle. Yeah. I'm not a nurse, so I don't know. Yeah. Do you guys want to just put it out? We're going to take two? Yeah. Okay. All right. First minute.
How you doing, Chief?
Good, how about you?
I didn't even know they made them that big. I didn't even know they made them that
Is it your
big.
turn?
It's my turn.
Okay, good luck. They're kind of rough bunch.
I know they are. They're tough.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you. All right. Okay, thank you all for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. Okay, up next is the Police Week Proclamation, and this one will be read by Counselor Hensley.
Mr. Mayor, before you
Yes.
read it, can I do it backwards? I'd like to give a little history since you have some new councilmen
Sure,
on
that sounds great.
council.
Please.
That way they kind of know what it's about before
Please
you
do.
read it.
Please do.
And I'd like to thank the officers. As you see, we always have support at our events, and the officers show up tonight because it's a special time of the year for us, and we hold a memory in our hearts for these officers. But on October 1st of 1962, President John F. Kennedy designated May 15th of each year as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar in which that May 15 falls as Police Week. And this is to pay tribute to law enforcement officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, and to voice our appreciation for all of those who currently serve on the front lines of battle against crime, and that the flag be flown at half-staff on Peace Officer Memorial Day. Little statistics, in 2018, so far, there have been 48 line of duty deaths. And I'll break those down for you. I won't do that for each year, but in 2018 so far, there's been 25 by gunfire. There's been 3 that are 9/11 related illnesses, 1 assault, 12 automobile crashes, 1 that is drowned, 1 accidental gunfire, 1 heart attack, 1 that was struck by a vehicle, 1 as a result of a vehicle pursuit, and 2 vehicular assaults. Of those 48, there were 2 from Colorado. Deputy Sheriff Micah Flick from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, and Deputy Sheriff Heath Gum from the Adams County Sheriff's Office. In 2017, there were 135 line of duty deaths. And of those, 1 from Colorado, which was Deputy Sheriff Zachary Parrish III from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. So each year we come before you to request that the mayor sign a proclamation consistent with this. In addition to this, the Alamosa Police Department, in partnership with all first responders across the San Luis Valley, would like to invite all citizens and City Council to a memorial service in front of the Alamosa Police Department on May 16th at 5 p.m. There's the history behind the proclamation.
Thank you very much, Chief. Really appreciate it, and thank you all for showing up tonight in support. proclamation, and then we'll have councils say some things, and then we'll come down and take a picture with you all, okay? All right, good deal.
Well, I'll do it a little backwards. I'll go ahead and how much I'm honored to be able to read this proclamation, and I appreciate everything that each of you do to help protect and save us and keep us safe, and everybody on your squad and your team, but also through the state, through the county, through the United States. So I'll go ahead and read this. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week at which it falls as Police Week. And whereas the members of law enforcement and the Alamosa Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Alamosa. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the City of Almaosa Police Department has grown to be a modern and scientific law enforcement agency which unceasingly provides a vital public service, and whereas the City of Almaosa Mayor Ty Coleman call upon all citizens of Alamosa and upon all patriotic, civil, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 13, 2018, as Police Week with the appropriate ceremonies in which all of our people may join in commemorating police officers past and present who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call all citizens of Alamosa to observe Tuesday, May 15th, 2018, as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, have lost their lives or have become disabled in performance of duty. Now, therefore, Ty Coleman, by virtue of the authority vested to him as Mayor of City of Alamosa, do hereby honor law enforcement officers across the country and the Alamosa Police Department, and proudly proclaim the week of May 13th, 2018 as Police Week, and May 15th, 2018 as Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Thank you, Councilor Hensley. Councilor V. Hill.
Thank you, Mayor.
And Councilor Carson.
The proclamation said it best. Just, Chief, to you and your group, kudos to everything you do for keeping us safe, and how professional that your group is, and how they want to connect with the community. They don't want to be an enemy to the community and stuff like that. And I just really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor V. Hill. Councilor Carson.
I just want to say thank you guys. Overall, you guys are, you're great. I hear great things all the time about you guys. I know a lot of you personally, and you guys stand out. You're, police all over the country are great, but I feel we're blessed here to have a great chief and a great crew, and it shows. And I just want to say thank you guys, and be safe, because you got a rough gig out there sometimes. So, well, usually all the time anymore. But thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carson. Councilor Broyles.
I think the proclamation says it all, and we greatly appreciate the police we have in this community. And I had a friend that was stopped a while back, and his comment was he was impressed how respectful the officer was. So good job, and it's a tough job. and again, I greatly appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I too would like to thank you all for all of the hard work and dedication that you put into your jobs and the professionalism that you show throughout our city. I consider it an honor to be able to be there and give the presentation and speak to you all as well as the community. And to the community, I encourage all of you to show up at this event, to show your support for our law enforcement officers. A lot of people don't know, but our law enforcement officers, and not just here in Alamosa, but around the country, they deal with a tremendous amount of stress on a daily basis. And sometimes they go through the whole week without someone saying thank you, and they don't do the job to get a pat on the back or to get a high five. They do it because they care. So whenever you get that opportunity, community, and you see one of our law enforcement officers, just go up there and share a smile with them and tell them thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay? Let's go down and take that picture. Okay, up next, we have on the agenda presentations from an outside. HPAC? Oh, sorry. Woo, we got 4, sorry. Up next, we have the 2018 Historic Preservation Month. I most definitely don't want to forget that one. And we have Councilor Vigil reading that document. Go ahead, buddy.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, could we ask the 2 representatives from the HPAC to say a few words before I read this?
Please do.
Tonight we have Mr. Don Thompson and Mr. Ralph Simbling. They've been on this board for many years. Go ahead.
First of all, to the city employees that are here, present here tonight, and those who are not, thank you very much for your continued support and the work that you do within this community. Thank you, council members, and Mr. Mayor, for your continued support of historic preservation.
I was going to say, I was at the county courthouse yesterday, a historic building that we're going to be looking for an adaptive reuse. We like to say that historic preservation makes a place special. When you stand in front of Walmart, you could be any place, unfortunately, on the face of this earth. But you stand in front of that courthouse, it is unique. Every May, Historic Preservation Month, we try and, Alamosa has done so well, and we have so many nice structures that have been designated. There are more to be designated. During this month, Mother's Day, the 13th, we will have a walking tour of downtown Alamosa, where the bulk of our historic properties are. And then on the 20th at the museum, we're going to try something new. There are some videos on historic preservation, they're about 10 minutes long, that I think do an extremely good job of explaining some of the uniqueness and the importance of historic preservation. When we look back east at some of the cities that have been decimated by lack of employment, things that they have done with some of their historic structures and the revitalization that has provided them. Hopefully we won't go through that here in Alamosa, but hopefully we'll have those buildings. So again, thank you for proclaiming May as Historic Preservation Month. And Jan, thank you for being such a dedicated council member. He is above and beyond the call of duty.
Thank you, Don.
Good
And
job.
if I may offer a quick few words, these guys run a top-notch organization. They're always doing research and trying to find buildings that they can add to our list. It's an economic boost, a small one, but still people travel to look at historic buildings around the country. So, and it's just good. It's just good to have these buildings in our town. So, May 2018, Historic Preservation Month. Whereas the City of Almaosa, in celebration of the month of May as Archaeology and Historic Preservation Month, recognizes that historic sites and structures in the community are symbols of our heritage and valuable assets to the quality of life in our community. These structures anchor our downtown, our residential areas, and the larger community, upholding the native character of our city and instilling civic pride by virtue of their very presence. Their potential as resources and attractors for heritage tourism is great. The events, businesses, and experiences these sites have hosted connect us to one another and form a vital part of the fabric of our community. And whereas Alamosa's many historic structures represent a diversity of economic and architectural trends that are integral to the past and future development of this great community founded 140 years ago. The city is actively engaged in recognizing these emblems of our heritage through the Alamosa Historic Registry. Now, therefore, the Alamosa City Council proclaims the month of May 2018 as Historic Preservation Month and encourages its citizens to advance historic preservation activities in the community.
Thank you. Thank you so very
Thank
much,
you.
Councilor Vigil. And Councilor Hensley?
I just want to thank you very much for your passion, for the amount of dedication you both have and the committee to keeping our history and having it so that we have things to look back, and also our kids and our kids' kids, so that it continues on. I have to say, when I was younger, I didn't necessarily see the importance of things like that. Even my mom with her genealogy and all the old pictures, and I am so thankful now, so it's always good to be able to continue to do that. So thank you very much.
I would like to also thank you all for everything that you do to protect and also to, I guess, show the beauty in our community by those historic buildings as well. I just have a question for you. Tell me a little bit about the process briefly when you find a building. How does that work, if you could share with us before you designate?
Well, currently, I don't know, maybe has been, building has to be 50 years old or have some very unique thing about it. If a president had been born there or something like that, of course, this would be very easy to get designated. But the most recent one that we designated was the Wayside Building out at the north side of town. The dairy area. And I like to say, since it was a residence, it was a school, it was a place for stagecoach people to spend the night, that it consequently was the first multi-purpose building in Alamosa.
And for those of you who don't know, it's just past the golf course on the north side of town, coming into the T. Right off the state.
It's a structure, it's the oldest structure in Alamosa. It was there 4 years before there was an Alamosa. So 1874, Alamosa was founded in 1878. So anyway, that was a structure that has that history, has that uniqueness about it. It's something that we want to protect and that we want to have available. And when you walk downtown and you go to the Square Peg and you see that plaque out there, it's a unique building. As I say, you look any place else on the face of this earth, you will not find a building that looks like that.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with us. We really appreciate it. Okay, all right, let's go down there and take pictures. Sure.
Thank you for everything.
Oh, you're welcome, buddy.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go. Take point. All right. The next item we have is presentations from an outside agency. Ms. Heather?
Thank you, Mayor. Monique Johnson, if you want to come on up. Monique is with the Colorado Health Foundation, and she has been extremely active in Alamosa, meeting with probably just as many different people, many different stakeholders and partners as she can, and really trying to get a feel for what Alamosa is. Tonight, she's going to talk about some of the projects and focus that the Colorado Health Foundation has and kind of what we might look forward to in a growing partnership with them.
And of course, the day that I'm down presenting, I have a cold, so please just bear with me. Monique Johnson, again, with the Colorado Health Foundation, and I want to thank you, Mayor and councilors, for and city staff for allowing me to be here this evening. So you see me grabbing for my waters because I'm going to lose my voice, so I'll try to make it really quick. I just want to give you a brief, just kind of background, and I'm looking at that clock pretending like there's time there. So just a couple years ago, our new CEO, Karen McNeil-Miller, went on a statewide listening tour, and a part of her tour was about learning about what Coloradans believe health is. And out of that, she developed the staff went through a strategy refresh to kind of just really align our statewide foundation's priorities to meet the needs of the communities. So one of our major mottos is bringing health in reach for all Coloradans across the state. Even though we are a statewide foundation, a lot of the work happens really in the Metro Denver area. And she states that, the thing about the foundation is that we have to learn from people. We have to learn about what they feel health is. And health is not just about keeping yourselves away from the hospital or keeping yourselves out of the ER. It's about community health. It's about mental health, social health. All of those things are really looking at health from a whole community perspective. And so just for right now, what I'll do is I have some pamphlets here, and I'll leave them outside for you to take them. This speaks to our strategy much more eloquently than I can probably speak to that. But I get a lot of questions about, like, who are you here to meet? What are you here to do? And I said, I'm here to meet with everybody. I'm here to learn about what's important to the people of Alamosa and really make those connections back to our foundation. We have a couple of current partners with members of the community. We have a partnership with the hospital, the behavioral health group, the Immigrant Resource Center, and hopefully the new partnership with the city. But we're looking to really just invest in the community and really support efforts around the conversations about health and whatever that means to members of Alamosa community. So Alamosa was recently selected as one of our 4 locally focused communities. And so the foundation went through an analysis of all the communities. I think there's 64 counties, I believe, in the state of Colorado. And Alamosa, along with Fort Morgan, Eagle County, and then the eastern portion of Pueblo as one of our, I feel like I'm talking really close, as one of our locally focused communities. And what that means, it doesn't really have a meaning. It just means that we're here and we're looking to really just invest or support or partner with areas that are outlined in our strategy. maintaining healthy bodies. That encompasses, access to care. That accompanies getting children to move more, so getting adults and children outdoors, nurturing healthy minds, really focusing on early childhood intervention, adolescent and adult recovery specifically, and also strengthening community health, which means really supporting ideas and encouraging ideas and listening to ideas around the community and what the community feels is important around community health. And then championing health equity. Recently, the Colorado Health Foundation became a private foundation, and so we're not allowed to actually support any lobbying efforts, but we are allowed to promote organizations, advocate for needs of their community. So those are new for our organization and for our foundation. And one area that's interesting for me is we're looking at affordable housing. When she went on a listening tour, we realized that affordable housing is affecting the entire community, the entire state. So that's a new area that we're trying to get into and we're trying to get involved in. And so, we'll need partners, we'll need different organizations, and a lot of the organizations that I've met with here in Alamosa, surprisingly, affordable housing and access to the availability of and the quality of affordable housing or housing in general has come up. And you think, with some of the organizations like, that's not their primary mission, but you think about people having a safe, sanitary place to live is a part of your health. And so those are areas that we're looking to invest in, and it's a whole slew of, there's other priorities, but of course you can look at, get some information about that. And then I have these contact cards. If you're interested in getting information about the foundation or projects that we support, you can fill out one of these contact cards and just drop it in the mail. And we are no longer allowed to sign people up. You have to voluntarily opt in. And so that's why we have these contact cards here available. But a few things that I want to bring up as well is you'll be seeing and some of our members actually in this room are a part of a leadership development program that we're investing in. We're investing in leaders on the ground. And so we really feel like the way you help build capacity and the way you support conversations around health and is really to support the leaders on the ground. And so that's one area that we're looking to, that we are supporting in your community. And then also, are you all familiar with the Kaboom Build? It's playground. So we have invested in a few Kaboom Builds in Alamosa, and then we are actually investing in 2 Kaboom Builds coming up here shortly. One of them is your Lee Daniel Park. We will be investing in the playground over there. And I'm really excited. I actually bringing my family to come down. That's on June 30th. We'll be doing that construction. And then we're in conversations with another park. I believe it's the Boys and Girls Club playground, and that really promotes getting children outdoors and getting children active, and then also supporting, community health and being able to have, parents and children come down and support. And then our recent funding, we actually funded the nature play area over at the Rio Grande Farm Park. So we're really excited. That was actually my first grant opportunity here in the community. And, the basis of what we're looking at doing is really supporting community-led solutions. We really have a heavy emphasis on equity and bringing the equity lens to a lot of things that we're doing. And that's about bringing health in reach for those that it's furthest out of reach. And so those are our cornerstones that Karen has really practiced and she preaches as far as, where the foundation is coming. And a staggering number, when I first started with the foundation, I love GIS, and so I asked them to put a map up on the wall, and I said, what has been our traditional investment in the San Luis Valley? And that investment, those dots were very scarce. And so I said, I'm going to change that. And a lot of that is about knowing what we can do and people knowing about the foundation and knowing the work that we can provide to the community. And so right now, I'm here a lot, and so people are like, what are you here for? I'm like, I get to meet with everybody. So from Heather all the way down to, I just met with the lady that runs a daycare center here, and so just really about getting the conversation happening. And then in June, we will be having a facilitated conversation with the Flowbots, and we will have a community event, and we are looking to bring partners together from the community to really provide a platform for you all to continue that conversation and engage us in the conversation as well. And so making sure I hit everything. And so if you, like I said, if you have any information or if you have any contacts, I love dinners, I love lunches, I love coffee. Milagros is my favorite place. Don't tell anybody I said that. But I'm just really just looking to get to know the community and just really listening and just really trying to just encourage, that partnership and that collaboration between the foundation and your community. So thank you.
And for those meetings that Monique mentioned in June, we are coordinating with Jolene and Monique's group to make sure that council can be here. I think some of the preliminary dates, we were going to be at CML. So we are going to have some options that council can participate.
Yes.
So once those get more finalized, we'll make sure and get those invitations out. The other thing, it's been amazing to meet with Monique. I think maybe, 8 months we're going on, or?
I started the foundation in September, and I started coming to Alamosa in October, so.
Okay, so every time, I'm always surprised by even more connections and even more knowledge she has of our community. We've even added her to our listserv for Parks and Recs, so she can be in the loop on what activities are going on when she's here, because she really is jumping into the community and wanting to see what Alamosa has to offer, and talks about bringing her kids and all of that as well, so.
We're coming for the Rio Fest and, of course, the sand dunes and the Gator Park, but I won't be at the Gator Park. I don't think I can do that. But then I just also want to note, too, what impresses me about this foundation, because I previously used to work for a city and county of Denver, is that our CEO is saying, I don't want you to tell me what the community needs, I want them to tell you. And to me, that is an organization really taking to heart the sense of community and what it means for community. So, thank you.
We're going to thank you. Council, any comments? Anyone? Well, thank you, Ms. Johnson. I would like to thank you and the Colorado Health Foundation for choosing Alamosa to be a locally focused community. The work and efforts that you've already done has made a positive change in our community, and I believe that what your organization and yourself plan on doing in our community is going to help increase awareness to health concerns and also strengthen our community's health overall. So anything that I can do to be of service, feel free to let me know, and I'm quite sure all of the council members up here would also like to volunteer their time in servicing, helping in this community effort.
So, and to the counselors, you'll be seeing an email. I like to meet with you all personally just to learn more about you and the community that you represent. So I know Monique Johnson's a very common name, but I'll be looking to reach out to you guys and maybe do lunch and we can just talk more one-on-one. Thank you so much.
And Councilor Brawls want to make a comment.
Yes, of course.
Do you have a phone number available?
I do. I actually have business cards, and then I also have these, and so I will leave these with Heather, and I'll also leave my business cards for you all to have. So thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, and we wish you much success.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. The next item, thank you, Heather. The next item is business brought forward by the city staff. First item is brought to us by the municipal clerk. Well, brought to us by Heather.
Okay, so this one is going to be a first reading on Ordinance 13-2018. This is regarding the alcohol penalties. So on April 18th, council had a work session to discuss and review the components in Ordinance Number 2-2011, which is codified at Section 10-32 of the Code of Ordinances, regarding the penalties for liquor license holders related to violations of their liquor license. At the work session, it was discovered that the look-back term for third offenses for sale to a minor provides for 1 year, whereas the intention was to mirror the guidelines in Colorado Liquor Rules 232 Regulation 47-604, which provides for a look-back term of 2 years. Council agreed that this should be reflected directly, and so that's what this ordinance is changing. At the same work session, council also discussed the minimum penalty for the violation of sale of alcohol to a minor, which is codified at Section 11-52 of the Code of Ordinances, to read the minimum penalty for violation of Section 11-51, sale of alcohol to a minor, and set the penalty for half the maximum penalty under the jurisdiction of the Alamosa Municipal Court, which is currently $1,325. At that work session, council agreed that the desire to keep a minimum penalty in place, but to make it a more appropriate fine of $500 minimum. They also discussed and agreed to have the maximum penalty be up to what the jurisdictional limit in the municipal court is, and that is what the ordinance currently provides.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Holly. Okay, council. Everyone's had a chance to review it. Okay, go ahead, Council Brown.
Yeah, talking about the minimum penalty being reduced. Now, before it was half of 1325, right?
Right, because so the way it currently reads is it is the greater of $500 or half of what the municipal court limit is, and that is set at 2,300 and 2,650, I think. And so it's half of that. So it would be the greater of, which would be the half of the jurisdictional limit in municipal court. And that would be their mandatory minimum fine, the way it currently reads. So we're changing it to be a mandatory minimum $500 instead of that half of what we charge in municipal court, or what we could charge up to.
So for a violation, we are reducing the fine.
For a violation, they'll get, if they get the violation of sale to a minor, they have a mandatory minimum fine of $500 that they'd have to pay.
But could it be higher?
It could be higher. It could go all the way up to that limit that we have in the municipal court.
And then the important clarification is that this is for the server, not the business. So I think some were thinking if it's a server that made one mistake, the judge had no discretion to go less than that 1,300.
So this is for the person that serves?
Yes,
Right.
yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Mayor, I move that we approve on first reading ordinance number 13-2018 and set it for a public hearing on Wednesday, May 16th at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter.
I second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, if not, please start voting. Thank you, Ms. Holly.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Okay, up next, we have under City Manager Legal, item A, a public hearing on the second reading of ordinance number 12-2018. Heather? Oh, Eric.
Yes, Council. So we discussed this at your last meeting when this was brought up on first reading. This is really a cleanup ordinance to clean up some implementation issues that we have discovered in the newly adopted Uniform Development Code. There are really four areas. One is repeal of the current Chapter 17, which covers subdivisions. That is now covered by Chapter 21, which is the new Uniform Development Code. Repeal of most of Chapter 12, which governs, it calls them mobile homes. The Chapter 21, the UDC, also covers those with the more appropriate modern term manufactured homes. We do leave some of the mobile home licensing provisions that are in Chapter 12, so Chapter 12 doesn't go away completely, but those get converted into manufactured home park licensing provisions. And then, as I mentioned last meeting, the UDC does not allow for planned unit developments in ag zones, and with your approved property swap for the developer, or proposed developers of the RV park, you would be looking at requiring a PUD in an ag zone, and so this allows that to happen. PUDs would be allowed in all zones with this change. And then there's just some cleanup stuff amending one of the tables.
Okay, thank you, Eric. So at this time, I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments in regards to this ordinance? Please come up to the podium. I see none. So I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Councilor Brawls?
This question, has the planning commission, did they approve this or look it over or endorse it, or?
They have not looked at it, because again, it's primarily cleanup stuff with the code. It's not really introducing any new concepts into the code.
Councilor Vigil?
Thank you, Mayor. I really like the fact that we have the PUD set in place now. Again, that will give us some controls. It gives us a lot of controls, especially with the potential of the new RV park. And the way it looks, and that type of stuff. So I just really appreciate that.
Okay. Councilor Vehil.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve ordinance number 12-2018 on second reading.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not, please start voting. Okay, Ms. Holly?
The motion carried unanimously.
All right, good, thank you. The next item is item C. Ms. Heather, you want to talk about that one?
Thank you, Mayor. This is also a second reading along with a public hearing. The item before you tonight is a request from the Boys and Girls Club to vacate essentially what is that red crosshatch in the corner there. Their desire is to create more of a campus feel. It allows for maybe some development. It also allows for increased safety and those types of considerations. You will see that they own this corner yellow lot, and so it will connect what they own there with the vacated portions of the street with the rest of the property that they own. It maintains alley access for all the other properties that are there, as well as access to their existing parking lot on the remaining sections of those streets. This is a fairly straightforward consideration for council, and it's a second reading public hearing.
Okay, at this time, I'll open it up for a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments in regards to this? Please come up to the podium. I see none, so I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
Mayor, I move that we approve on second reading ordinance number 11-2018.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, please start voting. Heather, I show on the agenda here an item C, authorize the city manager to sign an agreement with MIG Downtown. Are we still going to talk about that one too?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you could. Is that, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
The
All right.
motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Holly. Sorry about that.
Oh.
All right, having a Wednesday.
Okay, so we will move to the next item. Dan and I are going to tag team this one, similar to our work session. This is to authorize the city manager to sign an agreement with MIG for a downtown design plan. From a background perspective, we completed the update to the city's comprehensive plan in 2017, and that has provided a very strong vision moving forward for our community. Several tasks in the comprehensive plan relate to the revitalization of downtown, and in order for us to start working on those tasks, we would need to complete a downtown design plan and preliminary engineering. Council authorized staff to submit a grant for this project through DOLA, and we were successful. On August 2nd is when you authorized us to submit for the project. We received $100,000 from DOLA, which is matched by council's approved annual budget for 2018 of $100,000. So that brings the total project budget amount to $200,000. Once we realized that this project was going to happen, we created an advisory council that includes 2 council members, which is Charlie Griego and Christina Daniel, 2 planning commission members, which is Chris Lopez and David Mize. We also have a downtown business owner with Carol Dimlow, Alamosa Chamber of Commerce with Kara Burke. Shirley Atencio represents ASU. She's also a local business owner. Everett Brown, TSJC. Kel Mortensen represents Alamosa Convention and Visitors Bureau. And then from a staff perspective, we have Dan, Mark, and myself. We issued a request for proposals, and we're excited to receive 11 proposals. And I can tell you, for all of those, they were very high quality. It was really good sign that these companies were interested in working with our community and developing this type of plan for the downtown. The communication from a staff perspective includes what those 11 proposals were, as well as what those costs were. The advisory committee read all 11 proposals, and we went through criteria on all of them and voted on all of them and narrowed it down to 4 to bring in for an actual interview. And so one of the key things we looked for from a committee perspective is, how did we see this group working in Alamosa? Is it something that it was going to be like oil and water and it not mix very well, or is it something that we thought they would interact really well and would have the right interaction? We also looked closely at what their interaction as a team was. Do they have a strong history of working together? Were these the actual individuals we were going to be working with? Those types of considerations. Based on those interviews, the committee recommended selecting MIG as the successful firm. I will tell you what set MIG out for us is, one, the interaction among that team that we would be seeing. It was a very positive interaction. There's a strong history there, and we felt they would interact very strongly with the group. They also had a strong background with working with universities, and one of the key aspects we wanted to figure out was, how can we better connect our downtown with TSJC, with ASU, and take those items into consideration. We also felt as a committee they probably had the most balanced proposal. So, for example, one agency maybe had a lot focused on economic development and what would be a catalytic project to just set the downtown on fire. Others were very, very focused on just streetscape. Some were focused on the design of the traffic and those types of things. This one seemed to have the most balance compared to a lot of them. So the committee was very excited to make this recommendation. And then at this point, we're going to transfer to Dan, because they did do a short presentation, because the visuals are really neat in order to kind of see what we have to look forward to.
I had the opportunity to check references on this group, and they came highly recommended. The people that I talked to, City of Longmont and City of Golden and some other communities that they had worked with, had just nothing but glowing recommendations for this group. And this is some of the graphics showing before and after kind of depictions. Some of it's hand graphics and some of it's actual photos of built projects. And this is the Longmont alleys, and you can see the creation of, or the kind of before and after of what the alleys were with the utilities there on the overhead, and the beginning of installation of pavers, and what was a very pedestrian unfriendly area is now one of the most popular ways for pedestrians to move through the downtown area. Next. This is just another shot, but you can see the different aspects of the streetscape that they brought to really activate the public spaces. This is Golden. This is another one of their downtown street projects. Next. This is kind of before and after. You can see the wide streets, the drainage improvements that are needed, the narrow sidewalks, and next. Another example, or another shot at the same. And then these graphics were prepared. They hold what's called a charrette, where they meet with different community stakeholders and get ideas on what they want for the downtown area. And this was some of the hand graphics that came out of the end of their charrette meeting with their public. Next. And these are some of the improvements that were developed as part of their plan for the Sacramento Street. Next. Is that it? No. And again, different types of street furniture and different paver patterns and ways of interacting in the public realm. Different uses of materials along the streets to animate the streets, street furniture, and again, some different treatments for sharing the pedestrian realm with the vehicular movement in the downtown area. And then some different ways of dealing with parking and bike paths and the way they interact together in the downtown area, and a different view. And this is the Estacado, Oregon project. And again, before and afters. This is basically what they started out working with. And you can begin to see the installation of the lights, the hanging planters, and some street furniture, the angled parking, and the narrowing of the traffic lanes. And this is the way they treat the parking. One thing to note about the way the parking pattern is, it's used for the parking, and the pavers also delineate a public space that they create for special events. Next. And this is kind of some different treatments. This is the before, and then these are again some photo simulations that they did to demonstrate what the street could look like as part of the development plan for that community. And this is another special events treatment for that same public space. And this is another example of streets and bicycle paths on the streets. Next. And then wayfinding. And one thing to note about the green striping on the street here is this is all paint. And it's used as a temporary way of implementing improvements to your downtown area without actually spending money on construction. You get to go out there and paint some lanes, use some bollards to protect the bicyclists, and see if the idea works in real time in the city without spending a lot of money on streetscape improvements. And this is Colorado Springs, same kind of idea. This was a special events space that they were looking at downtown. That's it.
And I think, clearly some of these are what came out of their community. We have no idea what our community is going to tell them that they want to see for the downtown. And so each design would be unique to the community, and there will be an eye towards the cost in regards to not only the cost for the first time, but then once you need to do ongoing maintenance and those types of considerations as well.
One of the things that they were talking about as part of their public outreach program was getting the stakeholders together and identifying different public meetings that they're going to hold. And they're also part of their group. They will be doing the presentations. They will have interpreters to do bilingual presentations. And they will be doing surveys. Surveys will also be bilingual so that they're reaching out to all members of the community and getting input from all groups that use the downtown area.
And I know for Councilor Daniel, one of the items she picked up for their public outreach is they were one of the ones that talked about making sure you're selective on where you're doing that public outreach, because for some populations, they may not want to come to City Hall. They may feel more comfortable going to other locations. And so in addition to the bilingual, but they would also be looking to make sure we are getting people actively engaged.
And one of the ways they're going to do that is also through social media, being able to use Facebook and Twitter and so on to engage the community. And then their survey process will be interactive, and they'll be doing keypad surveys so that there will be an app on your cell phone that you can call and respond to the surveys and get real-time responses from the community while a presentation may be going on someplace else in the city.
Great job, Dan. Okay, council, any comments? Councilor Rawls.
Yeah, just for clarification, I noticed your 4 finalists here were submitted to higher bids. And can you kind of give a reason why the lower bids were not interviewed or?
So I think some of the reasons is when you're looking at these, it's, do they have the experience that's relevant for the type of project that they're going to be doing? Do they bring the full breadth of professionals to the table? So for this project, we definitely, because of the preliminary engineering, we wanted a strong engineering firm. We wanted firms that had a relationship of working with CDOT since our main street is a highway. So we looked at that. We looked at communities that would have experience, or firms that had experience. I mean, it's exciting when they have experience with large communities, but we wanted to make sure they had some experience with smaller communities as well. Some of the ones that were a little less expensive were maybe even more narrowly defined, so they maybe were not, they focused, not entirely, but a lot on economic development, but they didn't have very much strength on traffic calming and connectivity to certain assets and those types of things. And so they didn't necessarily have the full scope in mind. They had some of it, but not as strongly. Is there, how else would you probably explain?
A couple of the firms that didn't make the cut were very strong in economics, and they were proposing to do a very strong economic development plan, but they were very weak on the urban design and the street furniture and the graphics downtown. I would say any one of the firms that we got could have done the project, but we culled it down to 4 that we thought would be the absolute best at delivering a product that was unique to our community. And any one of the 4 would have also been an excellent choice, but Meg had a special interaction between their team. We had mentioned that was one of the reasons they were selected, and they went back and started looking at the individuals that are part of our project team and said that some of those different consultants with different firms have been working together on different projects for over 20 years together. So it really comes together in the rapport that they have as a team and working on projects like this in our community.
Okay. Councilor Carson.
What's the amount of, or the volume of work that a California firm has done versus the Colorado firms that were in the running? What's the amount of volume that this firm from California has done versus these firms here in Colorado, and what's their, I have a hard time understanding how a firm from there has better experience in this environment.
A lot of these firms have multiple locations. So we're working with the Denver group. So their parent company might be out of California, but the group we're working out is out of their office in Denver. And that's where a lot of their experience is. Now, they've done some other areas, but we're working with the group that's based out of Denver. I don't know if the top of your mind, if you remember, but I think a majority of these probably have offices located in different cities. Dan, did you want to?
Yeah, most of them do.
But you're guaranteed the team that you worked with initially to come back and do the work.
Their headquarters office is in Oakland, California, but when they moved into the Denver market, they purchased or bought another firm that has been working in the Denver design community since 1984, and that was 20 individuals. So, we're working with a group of people that have extensive experience in the Denver market. It's just that the management staff that they brought in to run the Denver office came from the Oakland area, but the people that we are working with have extensive experience in the Denver design community.
Dan, thank you, and thank you to all of the team who's working with you with MIG to bring this unique product to our community. Earlier in one of the work sessions, Councilor Vigil brought up how important having different colors in the community, vibrant colors, will be to our community. It looks like from your presentation, they took that into account as well. Wayfinding is going to be something that I would like to see more of in our community. I think it's so important because we do have people who come into downtown, and we want to show them how to get back and forth to other parts, and not only downtown, but other areas as well. And then the community involvement, I'm glad to hear that you all are going to try different ways and different strategies to get the community involved, because at the end of the day, it's about the community redesigning our community and the city the way that they feel it should look like.
And I encourage you to come down and participate in the public process, because we're going to be, as part of the design charrette, laying out maps and breaking out the markers so everybody gets to draw on the maps and add their ideas on what's appropriate for the downtown, so.
And, you know, it's going to be more than just streetscape. They're going to look at the alleyways, they're going to look at parking needs, they're going to look at our traffic calming measures needed, what kind of discussions do we need to be having with CDOT. They're going to look at the wayfinding has been a part of it as well. They're going to look at connections to get, when we have all the events at Cole Park, and we're not getting those visitors to the downtown, and how do we have that happen, in addition to what we mentioned with connections to ASU and TSJC.
Also, where do we have special events in the downtown area, permanent location for the farmers market. There'll also be a set of design guidelines on new infill development and how it contributes to the appearance of the downtown area.
Okay, thank you, and Heather, appreciate it. Okay, any other comments?
Mayor, I move that we authorize the city manager to sign an agreement with MIG for downtown design plan and preliminary engineering services.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all right, please start voting. Okay,
The
Ms.
motion
Holly.
carried unanimously.
Thank you, you read my mind. All right, good deal. Next, on the agenda, we have the first reading of ordinance number 14-218. Ms. Heather?
That one's me again, Mayor.
Man, I am off
Because
today.
this is a topic near and dear to my heart. Actually, this results out of an effort spearheaded by CML, a statewide effort spearheaded by CML that is a result of a push back in 2014 by the Colorado legislature to require sales tax self-collecting municipalities, of which we are one, to abide by a set of definitions that the state would put together and impose upon the municipalities. That didn't get going, but instead the legislature asked CML to spearhead a statewide effort to get municipalities to adopt a standardized set of sales tax definitions so that sales tax definitions and collections are uniform across the state. That's a big advantage, of course, as you could imagine, for businesses that do business in more than one jurisdiction. And there are, I attached a CML fact sheet to your materials. There are about 70, or there are 70 self-collecting sales tax municipalities in the state. As of July of 2017, 13 had adopted the standardized sales tax definitions. I think the most recent count is they're up to about 30 or so of those 70. And I think it is a good thing for us to do. We did it back in 1991. There was a similar statewide effort for standardized sales tax definitions. So our current set of sales tax definitions stem from that 1991 effort, and in some senses then this is updating those to the standardized 2017 definitions. The design of the definitions is that there will be no change in net revenue to the city, so we had to make sure that the definitions didn't change some of the exemptions that we currently provide, for instance, that those are still provided, and that all is the case. So this is a first reading of this issue before you, and I think if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Council, do you have any questions of Eric? All right, okay. Eric, thank you for your research into all of this and your work. Appreciate it. Okay, Councilor Vigil?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve ordinance number 14-2018 on first reading and set for a public hearing on May 16th at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, start voting, please.
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Hawley. All right. The next item, discussion regarding non-city resident voting. I'll let you all decide who's going to talk about this.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. We're going back and forth. This is on your agenda. During the last election, as some of you were running for your positions, I think you were hearing from residents in the county that they felt that they would want to have a chance to vote, that they either own property, own businesses, both, and that by not being able to vote, that they don't feel that they're being heard as much. And I think you're hearing from multiple county residents on this item. Based on that, council or staff did some research in regards to what this looks like, not only at a state level, but nationally as well. The information I'm getting ready to review was provided to council during your retreat in March. And at that point in time, after reviewing the information, after some discussion, council had decided that given the complexity and cost and those types of considerations, that at this point it's not something council was interested in moving forward. However, there's a lot of research that went into this, and council wanted to make sure that people understood that you just didn't ignore those comments and those requests, and that we really did look into this and we really did do some research, and that there was a very good discussion surrounding this topic. And so I'm going to ask for a little bit of patience, but I'll review the research and effort that went into looking into this. At a staff level, we put the question out on what is called, there's a listserv, that's an email group, and for this we put it out on the city manager listserv, and so all the city managers in the state of Colorado get that email. And the question I put out there was kind of what I just summarized, that during the last election, many of our counselors were approached by county residents raising concerns that they cannot vote, and if anyone else out there had researched this or pulled together any information. Our state municipal league, CML, also monitors our listservs, and so they picked up this question and did some research on their own, and that's where we brought in the national research. And they used their connections with other state municipal leagues, legal resources, and they were able to take a look at the history of the listserv. So if that question had come up 10 years ago, how was it answered, and those types of things. One of the items we were contacted or put into contact with Mountain Village. They do allow a different type of vote. It is important to note that Mountain Village is actually a very unique entity, but they do have strict guidelines that allow for this difference in voting, but it's based on their percentage of population are part-time residents. So they have a large percentage of their residents live there part of the year and then live somewhere else the rest of the year. This only applies for Mountain Village. It only applies to non-residents who own residential property within city limits. It does not apply to anybody else, including business owners or other types of property owners who are not city registered voters. The property they own has to be in their name, and they have to own 51% of the property. They've actually had this in place for over 20 years. The only pro that they see with this program is that the residents cannot claim taxation without representation. It's important to understand that for this community, property taxes represent a majority of what is the town's revenue. It has created a different type of NIMBYism, which is not in my backyard, with items between full-time residents and the part-time residents, such as issues as affordable housing and those types of things. The biggest drawback is that they cannot coordinate their elections with the county, and it is extremely time-sensitive, a very manual process for the city clerk's office. They have to verify at every step of the process. So sending out voter registration cards, receiving the cards, sending out any notices, sending out the ballots, receiving the ballots. Every step, they are having to verify that the subgroup are still qualified voters. So as you can imagine, on an annual basis, how many people sell their homes or buy a new home and those types of things. So they're constantly having to check for those. At the very beginning, they always take the previous list, they check with county records to determine if the individual still owns 51% of the property in their name, and add any that may have bought property since the last election. Now, thankfully, they only have 1,200 registered voters and approximately only 500 vote. So that's something that if they were much larger, obviously this would be a much bigger burden for them. In regards to the other responses we got for the question we put out to the city managers, Ridgeway considered it in 2013 and 2014, but decided it was not a good idea. Tom Aker shared that this concept came up during his tenure with Trinidad and South Fork, but after discussions, neither community felt that they needed to pursue it. And then here's where the benefit of having the Colorado Municipal League involved. Their contacts with New Mexico shared that they have a very narrow definition of a non-resident voter can vote on an issue. They don't think it's created any issues for them, but they can only do it, they can only vote on questions pertaining to municipal debt. So all other types of questions that might be put before voters, they don't vote on. Then on the material connected, it has information in regards to a non-resident municipal elector is registered to vote in the county in which the municipality holding an election on the question of creating a debt is situated, has paid a property tax on property located within the municipality, and has registered with the municipal clerk his intention to vote at the municipal election. New York has seen this issue come up for areas mostly due to dual residence and summer homes. So again, it's very much a residential situation. Delaware and Connecticut also have very limited language for non-resident property owners to vote, but we were not able to get more detailed information. When they looked at the history of all the listservs, what they have found, according to the Colorado Municipal League, and I'm quoting them, is that they found that most discussions about allowing it in Colorado towns were only initial thoughts, with municipalities ultimately deciding against it, but reasons why were not discussed. So the next section was the items we presented for consideration to council, and here's where it becomes clear on what these conflicts can be and where it can get complicated. The first one is it will require a charter change, and so thus we would have to put that to the voters. But then you're going to have to process who from the county are you going to allow to vote? Is it everyone out in the county, just anyone who's a county resident? Or is it only going to be those who own property within the city limits? Is it going to be those who own a business in the city limits? Or is it a business and a property? What about if they don't live in the county? So if someone owns a business in the city limits but they live in a different state, do they still get to vote? What should they be allowed to vote on? Do they get to vote on everything? Do they get to vote on the debt, tax increase items? Do they vote on elections? How does this fit into our ward system? And then the big one is how does voter registration look like? And so our municipal clerk did check with the county, and they confirmed our suspicions. If we allow all county residents to vote, then we can continue to coordinate our elections, and that's important. However, if we decide we're going to limit it to someone who either owns property or owns businesses, then we have to go at it alone. And so then that becomes our process, which is extremely manual, time-intensive, and we would have to be the ones that handle the elections from this point forward. We would not be able to coordinate with the county. The pros of considering something like this is that it seems to address the perception that business and property owners do not have a voice since they live in the county, but have a major investment within city limits. The cons that staff has listed is that it's their choice to live in the county and not live in the city limits. If they want to vote and have a voice, they can live within the city limits. Council, I feel, already does a very great job of listening to any public input, and very rarely do you discriminate between a resident versus a non-resident. If you allow county residents to vote, why do we have a city government separate from the county? How do you determine who's going to vote? So is it only, again, business owners, or do we expand it to those who own land, who work, who spend money? Should a county business owner have a voice and not a business owner who lives outside the state? So what's the philosophy of why someone who lives in the county and owns a business here has more of a say than someone that might live 2 states over and still owns a business and has the same impact? If the vote is opened up to all county residents, including non-business owners or non-property owners, so if we just open it up to everyone, why should they have a say in raising sales tax for businesses they don't operate or property taxes for property they don't own? And then why should they have as much say on the priority of services such as roads, utilities, parks and rec, police, etc., as someone who lives in the city limits and is more directly impacted on a daily basis? And if the expansion is only for who owns property or a business, then the voter registration will be a nightmare. And so that was the information that was presented to council during the retreat.
Thank you, Heather, for sharing that with everyone. Councilor Brawls?
Yeah, I did quite a bit of research on this. Yeah, one question I have is, I try to think of ways to make it work. If a person lived out in the county and they wanted to vote in city elections, they could rent an apartment and declare that as their primary residence, could they not?
If they want to get into that stuff, I'm not going to give that kind of advice.
No, but I mean, they'd be eligible if they rented an apartment and declared that as their primary residence.
If they could defend that as being their primary residence, yes, then they would be a resident elector of the city.
I agree, it's pretty complex, and it would take the city resources, use up more resources of the city, and I could not come up with a simple solution either, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brawls. Any other comments? Councilor Vigil?
Thank you, Mayor. It is very complex, and no one else in the state is doing it but one small town north of Telluride, Colorado. But I look at our city, and I think, because if you, in your communication, you talk about possible items for consideration, and you say, well, we have come up with who from the county should be allowed to vote. Everyone? I don't think so. Those who own property in the city limits, that's tough too, because, and then if someone who owns property but lives in Montana or something like that, I don't think they should be allowed to vote either. However, what about someone, and I'm trying to look at the makeup of our city, and those folks who might live out in the county but own a business in town. Is that number a lot? Because if it's not a lot, I don't see it being a big burden on our clerk.
We don't get to just do what that difference is. Like, we take on the whole election then. And so, yes, we can get the registration from the county, and that would take care of that, but then we would still have to then double check everything else, and we still have to run the election ourselves. So we would not be able to be coordinated. The only way to maintain coordination is if we did all county residents, because they can do the election that way. And so it's a smaller number, but you're still having to check, did they sell their interest in the business? Those different types of things as well. And yeah, and then
I'm just saying that I don't think that number is as high as we think it is.
Well, and then it's an LLC, and so then I'm not even sure if you have LLCs or corporations, that they can vote. So it gets more complicated.
Do we have any other comments from council? Okay, Heather, thank you so very much for bringing up this so that the community will know that we did have a in-depth discussion in regards to this. I too hear from people outside in the county, and I would like to think that our council members try our best to listen to all people in our community when we're here trying to make decisions that's going to benefit our city.
And I think the other is councils to be commended, as are the voters of Alamosa, for this last election to expand the definition of who we can have on our advisory boards, except for the Planning Commission and the Personnel Board. But, you know, we allow within a certain area county residents to be able to participate on advisory boards as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Heather. Okay. All right. The next item is we have committee reports. Does anyone have any committee reports? Oh, Councilor Hensley.
Nothing much, but just to let people know, we had the golf board meeting just about 2 weeks ago. I think it was right after our last meeting. Nothing too major to report. Obviously, we're getting now into the heart of golf season and things are getting a little busy. And the exciting part is they've got something planned almost every single weekend for the rest of the summer. So different events, different tournaments, things like that. So I think the golf course will be really booming. They're definitely working on a lot of activities to include more younger golfers to come. I know they had last weekend an event where if a parent came, the kids could golf for free. So just a lot of different things to encourage more golfers. So that's been good. And then I did go to CML conference last Friday. Main focus is obviously our conference that's coming up. So a lot of plans and excitement for our conference. And we did approve our budget, things like that. So just thought I'd report on that.
Thank you, Councilor Hensley. Do we have any other committee reports? All right. We do,
Yeah,
Councilor
big
Beal.
one. Went to the Rio Grande Farm Park meeting, and they are looking at separating themselves from the local foods coalition and creating their own nonprofit. So that's pretty big. They're in the beginning stages of that. They're going to have a work session with the local foods coalition within the next couple of weeks. They're going to start planting out there as soon as possible. So, that's it.
Thank you, Councilor Beal. Okay. Next item, we have staff announcements.
So I'm going to go fast, and you're going to have to jump in if you have some questions, because it's 8:45, and we have quite a few items. The first one is we received correspondence from the Alamosa County. They are undertaking a fundraising effort in order to help with their landscaping, benches, art, some of those things for the Justice Center. It's something that they're really reaching out to the community for, and it's a project that will have an enormous impact on the community, and the county has worked very, very hard on that. My question to council is, it's not something that requires a vote because it would be in line with your line item, but if council would be interested in providing funding at one of the levels for their fundraising for the completion of the Justice Center.
Okay. Any comments, council? Councilor Hensley?
I think it's a great idea, so I support it.
It's for a bench, correct?
I would recommend they have at the 850 level a bench.
I most definitely agree that we should show some sign of support to the county, because that is a huge undertaking for them. So if we can help by participating in some capacity, I think that would be a good idea for the Justice Center.
Okay, so we'll move forward with that. I wanted to just share the 3 police cars that were in this year's budget. We do have them in place. I think this week we will get them out into operation, into service. So FYI on that. You might remember, updated our sign code and kind of said here within this time frame is when you can put up signs. Well, we did not think through that and think about primaries because we don't traditionally have those at the city level. So next meeting, we will be bringing before you an ordinance change that will also allow a time frame for primary signs. And then also during this time frame, because we're going to have it start for May 1st, we just won't be enforcing it between now and when you guys have a chance to approve that ordinance. We will be changing some of the outside of City Hall. We're going to be painting the curb so it's more clear that that's not parking in that little roundabout area. And then we also will be moving one handicap spot so we can have our law enforcement be able to park in that spot instead of at the front as well. Usually that's utilized if an officer is responding for some reason to municipal court or that type of situation. Ladue should be done tomorrow. We are very grateful that the railroad has worked with us and made this a reality, and thankfully it will be done tomorrow. Mark and his crews have worked really hard to get this done and make sure that it gets done well. As you might remember, last week we held public outreach meetings for the neighborhoods in the Washington subdivision in regards to how they would want their roads to look. And we had essentially two options. One is the traditional curb and gutter, and then the other one did not have curb and gutter, but it had more of a French drain option for stormwater. There was pros and cons to each one. Overwhelmingly, the residents have indicated that they want the traditional curb and gutter. And so what Mark is going to do is take a look at that design, how we can fit it into the CIP. I will say for this year in the CIP, we only had $50,000 in there. That won't even be enough to pay for the engineering design. So we most likely will not be able to do anything out there this year. But Mark, as he works on the CIP, will have a more definitive plan on when we can get the design and when we can start getting implementation of that project. They knew when they voted on that it was because of the expenses, something that would take longer than one of the other options. And so they were well aware of that. We have been working with the group known as VIP, Valley Initiative Partners. It's a group from the whole valley that's partnering with ASU. And you guys might remember they did this whole outreach to brand the valley. They came up with the logo, all of that. Jolene is going to be working with the public information group to get that on different city sites appropriately. So we'll look at putting that on our website, stationery, some different things like that. So there'll be more information to come out of that, but just so you're not surprised. We wanted to let council know that beginning this week, you will start to notice some art pieces are being removed. I know, it's a little sad. Part of that is when we did the first round of art, next month is when we would have been doing the second round, but we moved it just from a weather perspective and timing and all of that to September. So this is the only year that we will have a little bit of gap where that first year's leaving and the next year is going to come in September, or this year will be in September. There are some artists, though, that agree to extend how long they were showing their art so we don't have as much of a gap. But you will start to see some of the pieces get removed. We are going to have next week two other types of, another type of neighborhood meeting. This is associated with concerns by residents who live near the ASU campus and parking and those types of things. So what we will be doing is holding two meetings on the 7th and the 8th at 5:30 here at City Hall and discuss what their concerns are, what some potential solutions are. One of that might be looking at a permit type of thing where they get 4 permits and you have to have a permit in order to park there and those types of things. And so we'll make sure as we review that they understand the pros and cons of that type of system. We're also making sure that ASU is aware of these discussions and can participate as well. You might remember that we had Rachel working in our office. She was working on the healthcare sector partnership. She has accepted a position with Alpine Veterinary, which is very much in line with her education and those types of things. We took that as a chance to reevaluate if we wanted to fill that position and use the remainder of the grant, or if it was something we could absorb with Jolene and Desiree and maybe use that grant for something else. And it looks like it's just a little over $7,000. We're not talking a dramatic amount. The healthcare sector decided they wanted to use that for scholarships, and so we will look at doing 3 $2,000 scholarships to students in the valley. It's not just for Alamosa, so it'd be students in the valley that will be majoring in a health science field and going to TSJC or ASU. So we're quickly pulling that information together and need to get it out because clearly the school year is almost over. So we're going to get that out. And we're excited, and we're hoping that even though this first round is paid for by a grant, maybe it's something that our partners in the private sector will see some value, and we can continue those. We've had discussions on needing to take a look at our ranch and what the vision is for that. I wanted to let council know that as staff, we are meeting this week to plan out what we think the public outreach needs to be, what the time frame, what studies we're looking at, all of that kind of stuff. We'll meet with the rec board and then with city council to share with you guys kind of what that plan is. But we do meet this week to really lay it out and put out what kind of meetings we think and when and those types of things. I also am meeting with Lance and Judy regarding the coordinated meetings we want to have with La Puente and making sure we understand what we want to talk about. I still want to have a neighborhood meeting so council can have direct input from residents on what their thoughts are, and then we would have a meeting where council is meeting with the La Puente board and can have some discussions. And so that's still in the works, and I'm meeting with Lance and Judy McNeil-Smith on Monday. As a reminder, I think I sent an email a long time ago, but the SLV Training Foundation is having a ribbon cutting for their new track. That is on the 8th at 1:30, and the address is 14101 Road 6S. So I think Holly's adding that to the council agenda as well, as the police memorial. I wanted to let council know in regards to LEAD, we would anticipate maybe starting our referrals into LEAD in June. And what we're going to plan on doing is your first meeting in June is doing a presentation. I think since staff has been able to visit Santa Fe, and then this last week we were able to meet with those from Seattle, we have a much better understanding of the program, and we want to take every opportunity we can to get education out there on what it is and what it's not and that type of thing. So your first meeting in June, we will have an update on that, and that's when we're going to be taking referrals as well. Or police will be making referrals into LEAD. And a reminder that we have Julie Scott's retirement party, 26 years with the City of Almaosa, is this Friday from 2 to 4 here in the council chambers. We also have Cinco de Mayo on Friday, May 5th at 5, and then you do have a work session on May 9th. So, sorry guys, you got a little bit of time off on some of those work sessions, but it is time to do the advisory board interviews, and so that is your work session on May 9th. Eric, I think you wanted to talk about something, and then Jim, I think you're the only other one.
Heather, one thing real quick. The ribbon cutting is on the 8th of May at 1:30?
Correct.
Can you give me that address one more time?
14101
Okay.
Road 6S. And it's, I don't know if anyone's been out there, it's the police shooting range.
I sent you guys a calendar update too and included the address on it, so you should have it on your calendar as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before Eric?
I think that's it.
Oh, wait, no, oh, I am sorry. false alarm. I did have some updates from Andy, who could not be here. We have the Inspire Trail work is going to begin. Southwest Conservation Corps, it's going to begin Monday the 7th on the Oxbow area, and there will be a crew of 15 to 18 who will actually be camping near the North River Pavilion. And so if people see that activity going on, we're well aware of it, and we've been making sure everyone's coordinated. We've got insurance in place and all of that. Marilyn shared the Arbor Day activities for this Friday at noon and at 4. We had some other presentations in regards to Kaboom. We're really excited with the Build Day, which is June 30th, but they also have this week their Design Day, which I believe is tomorrow. Andy is very excited legislatively that the state has approved the GOCO funding for the next 25 years, so that's really exciting to have that secured. And then finally, if you didn't see it on social media, the roller derby girls are already practicing out at the multi-use pavilion. So it's exciting to see that new facility getting used.
Awesome.
Now Eric can go.
Okay, Eric? Thank you, Heather.
Just a quick update so that you're not surprised when you see this. Sometime in the not too distant future, you're going to see a very, very long ordinance that will be addressing gender-specific language in our entire code, because on the review of the sales tax definitions, it was shockingly apparent that the implicit assumptions are that the city manager is male, the city finance director is male, and pretty much any other city official is male. So I did a quick search of the city code, and I don't know how many sections we have, but 148 of them are gender specific. So Desiree is on a task to ferret those out and come up with gender neutral language for our entire code. So that'll be a big, long ordinance that you guys get to consider sometime in the not too distant future.
Thank you, Eric.
I thought he was going to say he did some research and realized we weren't guys, but I'll let Jim go.
Good evening,
Thank you.
council.
Hi, Jim.
You'll notice that your microphone system appears to be working properly tonight. IT has done some extensive work on the system. We have found that the recording media that is an inline device, when that fills up, it deliberately shuts down our microphone system as a way to tell us that it's full and it needs some attention. There are ways around that. We could rewire the system, but I think we really want to keep that alert in our system. So we've come up with some ways, some additional media cards, and some formatting we'll be doing on those cards before every meeting to ensure that the system continues to work as designed. We also have, we were lucky enough that the company Excite, which is doing the AV for the new Justice Center, will be in town next Thursday, and they have agreed to come by and look at our system and give us some pointers on where we can change some design, where we can do some updates at local rates instead of charging us a mobilization charge to come down here and take a look at our system. At the same time, we are also investigating a wireless microphone system that would serve as a backup to the entire system that we could deploy if there was another problem. When these events occur, and they will occur again, I'm sure, as the system gets older, IT will suggest that council call for a recess, a break, if you will. Give us 5 minutes to come up and reset everything, and generally we can bring the system back online at that time. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Jim. Good suggestions, and I'm glad that you're taking advantage of that company coming into town so that they can evaluate this system. And I know the last meeting we had some struggles and some challenges, but you and Brandon did a good job of getting us back online to the best that you could at that particular time. So we understand that sometimes there are going to be some technical difficulties.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? That's it, Heather? Okay. All right. Local Liquor Licensing Authority actions. Consent calendar B.
It's just a consent item, but I can explain
Okay.
it if you want.
Councilor Vihil?
It's very self-explanatory. We do this every year. I move that we approve the special event permit for the San Luis Valley Early Iron Festival as described below.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
This has nothing to do with the liquor license. However, because it's the early iron, I remember the guys asking us if we could, when the cars drive into the park, there's a little bump that they have to go over.
I think we were going to do something, let me check with Public Works, because that might have been when Pat was here, and let me make sure that's made the transition. It
Thank you,
didn't
Heather.
seem like a big deal.
Thank you, Councilor Vihil. Appreciate it. We have a motion. Do we have a second? When we have a second, any further discussion? Okay, start voting.
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. All right. Up next is executive session. Oh, council comments, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few. Seeing that we had all these proclamations, National Teachers Week is next week. So just a shout out to all those teachers, especially Mrs. Hensley and myself and everybody else who teaches kids in public and private education. I went to a disc golf tournament last weekend along with the mayor. It was the Spring Fling, the Spring High Valley Disc Golf Tournament, and I would urge everybody to go play. They finally put in the new back nine, and there are some spectacular views back there of the Sangres, and there's some water features and stuff. It's really nice, and they're going to start actually getting those concreted over pretty soon, so that'll be good. So for the last, 2 months, I think every meeting I've brought up the water restrictions that we should put in place, and so I appreciate the Water Smarts team and staff for taking those thoughts and putting them to use. I guess my new thing I'm going to be bringing up every week now is coming up with a ranch plan, and I'm glad you addressed that, Heather, so thank you for that. Thank you to Mark for getting the do done, and Councilor Carson for kind of really pushing that hard and getting that done as well. Thank you. And then finally is this. I went to the recycling center, or I tried to go to the recycling center a couple weekends ago, and I didn't make it. And it's my fault because I just didn't get there, but it was frustrating for me. We had after that big wind a couple weeks ago, a couple of my aspen trees almost fell down, so we had to get them cut. And I had to go to church, and then this and that and this and that. So I would ask, and I know we talked about maybe having a survey, Heather, for people in town, but I would ask that we look at changing the hours on weekends, especially for summertime, when people are out getting their stuff done to their yards. Thank you.
Okay, so to clarify, during the summertime, we are open on Sundays and Saturday.
I'm saying adjust hours, maybe make it a little bit longer, or moving the hours around.
Okay.
That's what I'm suggesting. Can you tell us what the hours are on Sunday and during the summertime?
What are the Saturday and Sunday hours?
I think so, on Saturday. And then Sunday, it's 12 to 4, I believe.
It's shorter on Sunday. Any suggestions as to what hours?
I'm thinking of. I was thinking of maybe moving it earlier in the day on Saturday. And Sunday.
So Mark, you can sit down, I'll take this. So, I mean, we can research what we think the different costs are, but it's something that we're gonna want a majority of council to give that direction on researching what the costs are for X number of hours to add.
Councilor Carson.
I think that as a council, we should support the community. They've showed plenty of support in backing these changes to the recycling center. And I really don't see it being as big an issue as it's become. I think as a council, we need to support it. And I just wanted to reiterate my thanks to the city staff for getting the due done. I've been approached by a ton of constituents, and they're very happy. Those were my comments, but I do agree with Councilor Vihil. We need to do something. They've showed plenty of support. Ruthie has led the effort, but I think in general, everybody has the same wants from that recycling center, and it is kind of annoying when you show up and it's not open during those times that most people are working, which is Saturday and Sunday. Most people work on their yard on Saturday and Sunday. And so, yeah, we need to do that.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Carson, Councilor Brawls, and then Councilor Hensley, right?
Yeah, one more time, so the cycling center is open from 10 to 4 on Saturday,
And then also during this time of the year on Sunday as well.
and then from 12 to 4 on Sunday. It seems to me like with daylight savings time, could we extend those a couple of hours?
We can extend it. The thing that we're trying to make clear is we will pass the cost on to the rate, to the people who pay utility bills. And so as long as council understands that, and I know once you divide whatever that is by the number of accounts that we have, then it's something that may not seem like much, but it's not something that doesn't cost people. And that's the recognition that needs to be realized and may not be understood when people are indicating if they're in support of something or not, and those types of things from an education perspective.
Just to clarify, I looked at our recent press release that just went out on the summer recycling hours. They are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Sunday, noon to 4.
Councilor Hensley.
So, I guess this wasn't what I was going to initially talk about, but I guess, is it something that you have set hours you would like to switch to, Councilor Vihil, or is it something you want some research done? I mean, I guess that's the question I have in this, as far as that goes.
I think in the wintertime, I think our winter hours are fine. I have no problems with that. I think now that the days are longer, I would like to see maybe Saturday go from 9 to 6, add 2 hours there, and Sunday is 12 to 4. I'm saying maybe 10 to 4. So add 2 hours on Sunday, add 2 hours on Saturday. That's not a big thing to ask.
So again, to do the research, I just need to make sure we've got a majority of council.
Councilor Brawls?
I would support those hours. I think that makes sense. I was thinking about Sunday going till 6, but, it's Sunday, so I think 4 is appropriate.
And my concern is for the employee who has to work on a Sunday. How do we, 10 o'clock, you may be intruding on some of their family time, and I have issues with that when they're employees. I think we should consider some of their time as well. So how do we adjust to make sure that we are conscious of employees working on Sundays?
That would be up to council's discussion. We've got the hours we have that start at noon and go to 4. So that's a council discussion.
Dave, Councilor Brawls, sorry.
Well, I was thinking about people going to church. Let's say they go to church from, 9 to 11. Could they not alternate with another employee that may be going to church from 12 to 3 or so? There may be that flexibility. I'm just suggesting, some angles like that.
Well, the simple fix for that's just to add the hours to the end of the day, and we avoid some of that family time or church time in the morning. But yeah, I do agree. We probably should expand it a couple hours on Sunday. I think we should do that research at least.
So council wants staff to go ahead and look into the extended hours.
Okay, and we'll get to you what that cost will be and then what the impact would be to your average residential bill.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I actually didn't get to my announcement yet.
Okay.
Sorry, it's just real quick. I just wanted to congratulate the graduates from both Trinidad and Adams State. A week from Friday and a week from Saturday, we have graduation for both schools. And so just want to send out a shout out to all the students that have worked really hard and are getting ready to graduate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that's it, under council comments. Okay, I'll take a motion on this executive session if someone,
Mayor, I move that we move into executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024F and executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024A and 4E.
I'll second.
start voting, please. Okay,
The motion carried unanimously.
all right, thank you. Okay, we're going to move into executive session. And as soon as the executive session is over, we will come out here and no further business will be discussed and adjourn the meeting.